Thank you for recording. I want to ask you guys if you would please join me in welcoming someone who's very, very special with us today. And this is my dear friend Jan. Jan is here on the Zoom. Jai Jung. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Jan. Hi. So,
Hi,
Jan,
Jen.
I'm going to ask you maybe just to say a few words, but Ajeng, and everybody. Jan works with my organization, the Canales Project, as a research associate. She is currently, she just finished a semester at Oxford University. She's been really tremendous in her research and contributions. And she's also just a really cool friend. So, Ajeng, I'm wondering if you could just join me in welcoming Jan and maybe everyone else, we can make her feel welcome in the chat.
Of course. Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure. And we can't wait to talk to you and get to know you and hear your stories here.
Thank you so much, Ajin, and thank you so much, Carla, for a very kind introduction and invitation. I've heard so much about this workshop and the amazing works you've done from Carla, and I really look forward to today's session and hearing your insights. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
Jan. Thank
much.
you. Well, so thank you guys also for making Jan feel at home. She's as I said, she's been helping with a number of research projects. And as I learn your stories, I also just want to mention that I will be giving a presentation next week in Washington, D.C. to just share a little bit about this program and about you and about this work, because it's my hope that we can continue this work. It's my hope that other people can do this kind of work. This program is part of something that I'm sure you all know is cultural diplomacy between the United States and Indonesia. It's a program that has been really supported by the US government and the embassy there and carried out by myself and the JPAC team. So, as we start to talk more about entrepreneurship and how to make your projects become a reality, we'll talk a little bit about partnership structures, and this is certainly a great example of that. So, Ajeng, what I'd like to do today, I do have a PowerPoint. Let me just share my screen here. And as I do,
Oh,
uh, there definitely will be a chance for me to call on people. But what I'd like to do is start by calling on one individual who I have prepared a little bit for this today. So I'm just, forgive me here, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So today's session is on building your brand. And I know that this kind of language might seem a little bit awkward for us, even. Let me enter full screen. I know for myself, like, I didn't really want to think of myself as promoting a brand or being too self promotional because of what we talked about earlier, that idea of authenticity and really being able to share something in an honest way. And sometimes when we're promoting ourselves, it feels dishonest. But we're going to try to debunk that a little bit. I put this image up, which was an image that was created for me for a podcast I did for the State Department. And I was so blown away by it, I ended up contacting the artist. But this is going to lead us to an artist that we're going to learn about today. So, Samuel, I know you're here with us. Guys, please join me in welcoming Samuel. Samuel shared his story with me, and I thought that he did an amazing job with both the first assignment and the second assignment, which I'm going to share with you. But before I do so, Samuel, come on up. How are you today?
hi, Samuel.
Hello, everyone.
Samuel, do you mind if I switch gears here and just share your initial story with everybody?
No, no. Can you hear? Can you guys hear me?
Yep,
Yeah.
can
Okay.
hear
Okay.
you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't really mind. Please do so.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go through Samuel's story, and then I want us to ask Samuel some questions. So think about your questions as we get this ready. Um, Here we go. View full screen. So remember that first homework assignment of sharing your story? This is what I received from Samuel, and I really thought he did a fantastic job. So hello, my name is Samuel, and I usually look like this. And he's got this wonderful character here called Sam. Maybe Samuel, you can talk us through this a little bit.
All right. Yeah, I think I just love Frog Man. It's a character. Then for this assignment, I just think that it should I should have a figure that is easily being drawn to another panel, so I can share my story better. And then I just choose that figure. Then I introduce myself. This is me, but I don't look like that frogman, that little frogman, but that the photo itself. And then I explain that this is what Indonesia and a part of Indonesia, like it is a traditional a garment. So maybe you could see me as it's from East Java.
Mm-hmm.
It's a traditional East
From
Java.
Bondowoso, is that correct?
Yeah, Bondowoso. It's a really small city, agricultural city in East Java province in Indonesia. There are a
And
lot
I
of
was so impressed here in these photos that you shared. The dance. Can you tell us a little bit about the top photo with the fire?
Okay, thank you. So in Bondowoso, it is a very agricultural city. It is a very small city, and most of the people are just farmers, or selling vegetables and stuff. But we have some cultural heritage that looks a bit. I actually researched about this in my thesis, my undergraduate thesis. So Bondowoso is a very small place, and back then Chinese and Chinese and other other uh, you know other influences are very rare, and we see a variation of barongsai, or Chinese lion dance here. So the first photo is called Singo Ulung dance, or it is in English it would be Singo means lion and Ulung means the first, the best, the amazing lion thing. It represents a champion from Bondowoso that supposedly could turn into a white lion.
Wow.
So cool.
Very
And
cool.
before we go on, may I ask what did you study in university? Because you mentioned researching this for your thesis, and I think that's very interesting.
Okay, so I graduated from Institute Technology of 10 November in Surabaya. They are actually famous for mechanical engineering, but I took visual communication design.
That's amazing.
And there's going to be more on that, Ajeng, more to come. So I'm going to
Yeah.
move through the slides here to the next slide. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Samuel tells us while people use dance and gestures to deliver stories, he chooses to use graphic design. And Samuel, I thought this was really neat because we've been talking a lot about different art forms.
Yes,
And
sure.
you're introducing us. Last week we met with Nicholas, who is a violinist, and now
Yeah.
we're going to sort of talk about the graphic design element here. So you've created this Dream Ink, which you say was born through sweat, tears, and blood, and bless your heart for that. Everybody take note here. We have Instagram, Dream Ink Studio, Dribble, the Gmail. And so what I really loved about this was that we'll go through the whole presentation, but Samuel's very clear here that this is your brand, correct,
Yeah.
Samuel?
Yes, that's true.
And you have a logo and you have the socials. We're going to talk a lot about this today. So, this was already in his first presentation. Then he says, I grew up in H.C. Andersen's books, but sadly, not everyone was privileged enough to care to read. This is really important. in the first lesson, we talked about a theory of change. Does anybody remember when we talked about the theory of change, what that meant? We didn't talk so much about it, so I don't expect you to. But it's the idea that through an art form, you can address a social issue or create change, right? And so he's introducing here this idea that there is a problem, the low literacy rate. And then he's going to introduce a solution. And that's what I thought was really spectacular here with this narrative. And he very wisely put in this graph here, world education scores. Indonesia still has a low literacy rate, resulting in how the society shaped itself. Indonesia being the second from the bottom here. So when we go to the next slide, it's personal. I hope we can be a change we dreamt of for the world, right? So now, Samuel, forgive me. Would you mind if I share the next homework assignment that you did as well?
Okay. Go on, please.
So while I set this up, does anybody have any questions for Samuel?
Yeah.
Maybe you can put them in the chat while I get set up here. Yes, I love this. Kanye says she's running to Instagram. Ajeng, do you have any questions?
First of all, thank you for sharing your story, and I totally agree that it's that the way you told it was really remarkable too. And my question would be, how did you come up with your what made the issue so important to you?
All right. Okay.
I'd
So
like to know more about that. Yeah.
all right. I'm actually blessed to actually graduated from ITS from my college because I was taught how to actually address a problem as an artist, to see the problem with a creative eye, and it is something different from mechanical engineering, from electro, from every single major in ITS, because communication visual design is one of the art temp major beside the product design and interior design. So as a someone who draws things, I mean, like, a drawing cannot change the world by itself, okay? But you can address what's wrong with the world with a drawing. Basically that. So
no, wait, Samuel. Let's break that down, because that is a great phrase. Samuel just said a drawing cannot change the world by itself, but you can address the world's problems through a drawing to better understand. That phrase, Samuel, is gold. Like, when we start to look at the next iteration for your brand, that is a really, really good phrase. It's a useful phrase, because what you're saying, I think for all of us, you go, oh, this makes sense. Like, he's not just drawing for drawing's sake. He's drawing to raise awareness. He's using his drawing to help raise awareness. Does everybody see how that language, it might seem like small semantics, small language points, but actually it makes a really big difference in perception. It also gives us the perception that Samuel is not, forgive me for using a big term here, but you're not arrogant. You're not like, oh, I'm going to change the world through my drawings. You're taking a very incremental approach. You're saying, like, what I want to do is use my drawings to help create social change, which in turn buys us trust. Like, you're being very authentic with that approach. Does everybody understand this concept here? And we didn't script this. Like, Samuel just came up with that right now. Now, everybody, get your questions. Please get your questions ready. Now, I'm going to switch to the second assignment, which we covered last week.
I believe we have one from Yon Benny. Yon Benny here said, so we have to know what our life's purpose and use it to help each other, right? So I was
Well, I
wondering
think
if
that's a bigger issue, but a good one. Look, guys, I was in my
mm,
20s or teens when I understood this. I didn't understand it until I was in my mid 30s, and even now in my 40s I'm trying to understand what's the life purpose. Those are big questions.
Yeah.
But having a desire to use the arts at large to help make a change in society, that in and of itself is the pivot, right? When you say I don't want to just sing to be famous, I want to sing to touch people. I want to sing to help people. So there's a distinction there. Let's just hold questions for one moment, if that's okay, because I want to go through the second assignment. So then our wonderful character here, Samuel,
sure.
says, hello?
Hello. Okay. I
You
can
guys, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. Samuel says, and then what's the big goal? Sustainable creative design studio around children's books. So this is where he's starting to offer a solution to the problem of literacy. And he puts here achieving sustainable financing, channeling our creativity to young, hopeful readers, and be the reason someone starts reading. So these are very, very clear goals. Let's go to the next slide here. And now we're learning more about Samuel. How did I get here until now? I graduated from visual communication design. I chased down comics as a career path and dreamt of those big names, but failures and few bankruptcy taught me to quit. Quit the method, quit the way, but not the passion. I pivoted into children's books illustrations. Guys, can you imagine this page or any of these pages without Samuel's characters, without his visual design? If we just had the words, I graduated from visual communication, just the words, it would be a different story. But I can already see how his illustrations add a bigger emotional component to his story, right? And then going to the next page here. So, what is my uniqueness, right? That unique value proposition, UVP. I can work with so many styles. Samuel, I have to ask you, did you really do all of these styles?
Yes, I did. I actually work with um maybe 3 to 5 different art styles every week, I think.
And that is really amazing. So he writes here for his vision, I want to be able to have a financially stable studio. And I love that you've really cited that financial stability. Second, to get more people to read. Third, to preserve storytelling and folklore cultures, which is really a beautiful element. And then for the mission, develop the studio to produce more products, expand collaborative endeavors to foreign publishings, very smart, build networks with local illustrators, unions, and like minded creative workers. So, guys, I'm going to stop the share here for a moment. I'm blown away. I think, Samuel, what's impressive to me is, first of all, you've been able to matriculate all of these concepts of the mission, the vision, the UVP into really specific outcomes and goals. And you've also done it with such a personal touch. It's really, really fantastic. So now, why don't we take some questions? Starting with Ajeng, what do you think? This is maybe the first time, Ajeng, that you've seen this presentation.
Yes, it is my first time. And like I said, I am completely blown away too. And I was wondering if the vision and the mission that you had, was that something that you've had in mind for a long time, or is that a new concept that you've learned recently, maybe from our class?
I see. So
And how did you come up with that? Yeah.
okay. The I think the vision and mission, the way I wrote it, I think it came from Carla, of course. I have an idea, and sometimes despite my education in visual communication design, I strive to actually communicating sometimes. The I tend to I often learn languages because deep down I feel that I cannot actually process and talk about what's actually on my mind. So maybe at some point of my life I tried using my drawings.
So
So
drawing helps you communicate.
I think in some way, yeah. I mean, like I like to learn languages, like uh scratching some top part of it, like some the tip of the iceberg, like learning Korean, German, or something. But maybe I think drawing and visualizing what my mind could actually help what to communicate what I'm actually thinking.
That seems very clear from your talent, Samuel. I'm going to use you as an example throughout today, because I really think you've matrixed these concepts so well. And as we move into new concepts, I want to come back to you as an example. But yes, I see a question in the
We have
chat,
a
and I
question here
really
from
want.
Anita. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead,
So
Ajahn.
let's see. You said something about facing failures before your success that you mentioned in your drawing. How do you get over that failure and keep going?
Okay, that's actually a very big word to say. I am far from success. So success is a concept of having stability or something, and I am actually far from it. But okay, this is a big part. How to get over that failure and keep going. Some part of it are privileges. Not very much of us have the same privileges over something. Maybe we have a dream, maybe we have a goal, but maybe we don't have the privileges to actually reach the goal, to actually gain something from our dream. And I think that is okay. I, for one, actually have the privileges to have a parents that accommodated me to study in college. Then I met some people through networking, a little bit networking. I understand that not many of us actually have the talent, the enough talent or enough will or enough privileges to break down that big wall of failure. And I think that is okay. I okay in my presentation I actually wanted to go into comics, but
Into comics.
yes, like Marvel comics, DC comics, whatever, webtoon. I did some storyboarding for Chiayo comics back then, but uh it doesn't work. It is not sustainable enough for Indonesian market, so I failed. Uh I mean, this is my I mean, I think this is my third iteration of the studio. I keep changing teams, changing people, changing whatever it happens. I mean, I still have a parents that support me, and that is a big privilege for me. So sometimes maybe we don't have it, and I think that is hard, of course. But for me, I don't have the privilege of uh, piercing the comic book market. So and then I try to gather what I have to pick the threads of all the desperate dreams and then try to make something new.
Mm, mm.
And having a supportive parents, not that supportive, but yeah, you get what I mean. It is still a blessing and it is still a privilege. So I am blessed to be able to build a little studio that you know uh to and find clients. that that's also important. Like there are times that we don't have clients and all it. It's business. It happens. So sometimes we just
Finding the
have to bleed.
sustainability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, we're going to work on that together, Samuel. I know there's a couple more questions here,
Yeah.
and maybe let's just take a quick 2 minutes just to look at the questions. Ajeng, if you want to.
Yes, we have from Maria, how do you bounce back from burnout or art block? I think that'd be an interesting question.
Okay, so our block. Sometimes you just need to eat. Sometimes you just need to work and just force yourself. I think making an art as a job means that you have to actually be ready to not eat or have or gain anything because you're sick in some way. It is a boredom, it is a tiredness and something you have to rest, but then either you have to eat, either you have to get paid, or you have to rest, and it is sometimes a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. Well said, Samuel.
Yeah. Mhm.
Karina is
Do we have
asking
time for
about.
one? Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Ajeng.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. So Karina here is asking about the ebook formats because nowadays books also come with ebooks,
Right.
and even audiobooks. Do you think if children are interested in audiobooks for kids or maybe ebooks with illustrations, is it still considered as interest in reading in your opinion?
Okay. So I may have some experiences with creating ebooks for clients, and they're actually because of the COVID back then, the pandemic actually spiked the production of an ebook and the distribution of picture books actually like a few fold. Like I got some orders about ebook, and I think always I think always that the advancement of the technology will actually give us either a threat or an opportunity. So it is as an ebook and audiobook case, it is the thing that we have to adapt. We cannot actually say that ebook is a bad thing or a good thing, and it is not, as long as it is making money and audiences. I think it could be pushed into something profitable. I think it's something you can take as a threat or an opportunity, and that's my take.
Threat and opportunity, Samuel. I love that you're
Yeah.
using our words. Nev, I want to come back to your question. Maybe Samuel, you can take a look at that question
Okay.
in the chat. But I do want to push forward a little bit just so we cover the ground. So when we look at the concepts, in fact, I'm actually going to pull up last week's slides here. When we look at the concepts that we looked at last week, telling your story, which was the first class, I think Samuel has a very clear narrative. My name, here's where I'm from, here's some of the traditions in my area, here's my passion, this is what I do. He has understood that, and not only has he understood it, he has been able to communicate it super well through his art form. And I think for someone like myself who's a musician, like seeing that, I'm intrigued. I go, "Oh, this is really cool," right? Secondly, Samuel, you've been able to very, very acutely identify your mission, your vision, your unique value proposition, and something that you may not have known that you did, which is something called the need and opportunity. I'm going to put that in the chat. This is sort of tied to the theory of change. I'm putting a lot of terminology here, but need opportunity might be a better way to say it, because what you put in your slides was there is a need. Indonesia has a low literacy rate. We need to help increase the literacy rate in order to create a better society. Very clear. And you have an opportunity. You're saying, I can help with that. My skill set and my love of children's books can help address that at a young age. So the story's tight, the mission, the vision, the UVP, the need, the opportunity. To me, all of those elements are super important, and Samuel has already like identified all of those. Plus, he has the talent, and plus, as we can now see, he has the drive. He's failed, He understands what that's like. By the way, Samuel, I have to tell you, I don't believe in failure. Just parentheses on this point.
I see.
I personally don't believe in failures because I think any time that we don't reach a goal, it's a learning opportunity. And in many ways, we learn more from the times we don't get something we wanted than the times that we do. We might understand better, like you were saying that your initial goal had been to do comics, right? Let's say that you had gone that way and that it was financially successful and so forth. But maybe if you had gone that way, you wouldn't be as interested in this literacy component in children's books. And I think that by pursuing this, you might have the chance to make more of a difference in the
I see.
world. So I don't know. I mean, I just know from my own experience that anytime I didn't get something I really wanted and it led me on a different path, ultimately that was exactly the right path for me. I invite us to think about disappointments not as failures necessarily, but rather as learning opportunities. You seem to have very quickly learned from those. And when you do talk about like the financial burden of this, that's a huge learning thing because to learn those lessons in your 20s versus in your 40s or 50s is a big difference, guys. Samuel, for me, from my estimation, you are now ready to put together a business model, a business plan. The question for you now is how can you sell your craft, make money from your craft in a way that will keep you sustainable? That's where I think you are in your journey. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Thank you.
And I want to just talk about this a little bit because not everyone is going to be at that place. A lot of us are still trying to figure out what is our narrative, what is our mission vision. You're kind of a couple steps advanced of that. And I will be talking a little bit more about finances next week. I know every week I'm like, I'll talk about that next week. But just for the sake of where you are, Samuel, your main let's say that I am a potential client.
Yeah.
I'm a potential client. I'm in the United States. The first question I would have for you is how do I connect with you? And
Mhm.
more likely it would be via the internet, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I think it's great that Samuel, you put in your slides foreign clients also, right? Because guys, that opens up a global market to you versus just the Indonesian market. And obviously Samuel also speaks English very well. So, okay, let's say that I have a children's story that I want to create, but I just have the story in my mind. I want to hire an illustrator and someone who can do this. And what do I do? Probably I go to Google. And
Right.
guys, this applies to any of you who are
Yeah.
content creators, right? We have to think about ourselves as creating content. So I go to Google and like, what am I going to type? Illustrator, something like that, right? How could I, from a foreign country, connect more easily with you? That's the first question. And that has to do with branding. So, Samuel, do you have any ideas about this?
Oh, okay. So my brand actually undergone several changes. So I think we decided to go with Dream Ink with ink because our previous studio called something similar to it. So we need to retain the SEO from into Google. But
Great. Like
okay,
you're already thinking about that. No, the brand itself is great. But
mhm.
let me ask you, do you have a website?
It's only Dribble at this moment. The
What
Dribble.
is Dribble? Can someone tell me what Dribble is?
It is in the third slide on my presentation. So it
Yeah,
is
I
like,
saw that.
yeah,
But
it is like,
is it HTTPS? Is it like a www like a website?
no, it's still a portfolio website. Still, I still don't have a website at the moment. I'm still working on it because the
Okay.
costs and everything, but I actually plan.
Great, great. So let's pause there. Samuel, I really think that's the next step for you.
Okay.
is to create a website, and it can be, guys, we can talk more about that if you like. You can, generally speaking, create a website for pretty inexpensive.
Yeah.
I believe like on GoDaddy and some of these platforms, and sometimes even if you still have a student card, you can create them practically for free. But generally speaking, it's my understanding that you can create a website and own it for as little as $10 a year. $10 a year, maybe. Ajeng, you can help me with the conversion. I'm not sure exactly how much that is.
It's
Sure.
Um,
around
$10 is about
one
120,000
150.
rupees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so for someone who's creating content like Samuel, and this might be different for like singers or actors, but I think in general for all artists, it's very useful to have a website.
I
And
see.
on your website, all of these wonderful things that you put here, like the mission, the vision, are very important. But we're also going to talk about budget. How do you create a budget for a project that is internationally viable? Because the prices, let's say in Indonesia, are going to be different from the prices in the United States. And you want to price yourself at a point that's competitive internationally, to be able to sort of sell your product and get clients and customers, and at the same time deliver a good product and maybe have some testimonials, maybe have some clients like be able to go back and say, hey, I hired Samuel, he did a great job, like you should hire him too. Right? So to me, that's where your next step is, and then to promote that via social media channels like Instagram, so
Yeah.
on and so forth, which you have a beautiful Instagram. So I don't want to close too quickly, Samuel. I'm going to come back to you in a lot of the examples, but does this make sense for you as a next step?
Yeah, I understand. I mean, like, sometimes it is all the survivability in the work on work, and branding is costly on time. So yeah, I understand, but
It is costly on time. You're
we
right
still
about that.
we still don't have the right amount of time to actually build the website and the branding that can be shown to the world. But I understand
And
about it.
that can take time. Now, let me introduce another idea. Are you familiar with Fiverr?
Yeah,
Yeah, do you have a Fiverr account?
of course.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay, okay, fantastic. So that would be another way to promote your skills without having to create a website.
yeah,
But it so Fiverr is basically like subcontracting. The disadvantage with Fiverr is that you're not going to be building your brand as much because you're
yes,
building it through Fiverr. But the advantage is that you can, and many people do, create very lucrative businesses via Fiverr. So you could maybe get to the place where you say, I'm going to set a goal to really create as much economic revenue, as much money and funding as I can through Fiverr, that so that in a year I can hire someone to create my website.
yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just because that's actually where we are actually leading to.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Samuel, you're quite advanced. I'm very, very happy. And I want to keep going with these examples, but let me
Thank
just
you.
pull back up my, or use a website builder. Good idea, guys, in the
Ah, right.
chat.
The website
We
builder.
love these ideas.
We haven't tried that before. So it is a learning curve that should be learned. So but I understand that we have to take the next step on branding outside of sub platform.
I mean, I think eventually you do, but then the question is if you go to a website model and you're really trying to promote Dream Inc., you're going to need to do not just to have the website as a reference, but you need the promotion.
Yes.
So, like, I would be very happy to promote you. And you find several people, let's say via Instagram, internationally, and you say, would you help me promote the brand? And then you bring that
Ah,
traffic to your
I
website.
see.
And then via your website, you hope to get clients. And you ask those clients for testimonials. It's kind of a similar branding as influencers,
Influencers.
if you understand. Like
Yeah.
you, you want to be able to grow your clientele as much as
Yeah.
possible. Now, another model, Samuel, would be for you to get investors. Is that something you've explored at all?
the failed one had investor before, so we actually try to avoid that, so to avoid meddling with our creative differences because it happened already.
And when you had investors, was this a not-for-profit model or was it a for-profit model?
I think the first one, because it's quite it is kind of complicated because I wasn't in charge at that time. It was so this the studio is a remain a reanimated corpse from the last studio.
How many people are part of the studio, Samuel?
It was There was 12, and the number was
Wow.
dwindling over time. Yeah,
How many people are part of the studio today?
3 at most, and few collaborators and outsources.
Got it. Okay, so I'm going to suggest this because I think, Samuel, you're a bit advanced. Maybe you and I can have a one-on-one session separately.
All right.
One of the lessons, takeaways of what Samuel just said also is this. Actually, being a small entity, a small company, just with one person can sometimes be much
Better.
quicker than having a staff or a team.
Yeah.
And I say this because when you have a team, collaboration is can be difficult. You have to really make sure that everyone is on the same page when you're moving forward. Whereas if it's one person, you don't have to do that. You just move forward. So these are kind of lessons and takeaways. But Samuel, you've got a great product. You've got amazing talent and drive, and I really believe in you. Like I think that you're at a really great stage to advance your ideas. So let us just go back here to I'm going to share my screen. So we've heard Samuel's wonderful story. And then I want to go back here to the vision and the mission that we talked about last week. So I'm going to ask you guys to really keep that in mind this week again. What are your future desires? What would you want to achieve tomorrow? And then the mission being, how are you going to do that today? What's more objective? As we start to talk about your brand, it really ties to your story, as you saw with Samuel. And I sort of put this up here to think about this question of what is a brand. I put the JPAC beautiful logo here, but maybe I can stop share for just 1 second. Ajeng, what would you say is JPAC's brand? What does JPAC stand for? What is JPAC? What does that even mean?
I feel like this is a very I feel like the pressure is on because I've been here from the beginning, but I'm gonna try to answer as best as I can. I feel like JPAC represents performing arts. JPAC represents community and
Right.
learning.
Jakarta Performing Arts Community.
Yeah.
Not center, but community. And I think that that's really a big difference, right? Tell us, if you can, just briefly, what is the story of JPAC? I think they were founded in 2016 or something like
14.
this. 14. Okay, sorry. Do you
No,
have a brief overview? Just briefly what you know.
yeah, sure. I was very lucky to be there from the beginning, as I said, with a bunch of with this a lot of our friends here, and we started. We met at another theater community, and we are just a bunch of people who likes musical theater, really.
Okay.
And I think we had some. There was like a difference of direction of where we want the first community to go, and then we're all kind of just like, well, we're just looking to perform musicals, really. And then we ended up creating our own community. And you made a very good point there about it being performing arts community, not a performing arts center, because we were not experts, we're not trained in performing arts or production by any means. We're just a group of people who really likes musicals, who really likes performing, and that's what we want to open to everyone else as well. We want everyone who wants to join can join.
And I think that that is like the spirit of this, right? So I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. Forgive me here, but if I Google Jakarta Performing Arts Community, right? First, your Instagram comes up, Facebook, Twitter. We're gonna talk a lot about social media after we come back from the break. Is there a website? Maybe
Yes,
someone.
we do.
I'm
We have,
quite sure there is.
yes, we do have
Um,
jpac.com. I forgot.
is it jpac.com?
I think it's jakartapac.com.
Jakarta.
There we
Yeah,
go.
there we go. So let's just take a look at JPAC again as an example. My internet is very, very slow here, so forgive me.
It's okay.
Oh, no, that's not it either.
Not it. I think our website may have been under maintenance, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, okay, so um here we go. Sorry, my internet is really, really slow, guys. But at any rate, here we go. Triple threat, Jakarta. Yeah, it looks like it's under maintenance right now. But you guys have the Instagram, and that's where we're going to go anyway with this, is how to use social media. So forgive me, I'm going to go back here, view. So looking at a brand is about a philosophy too. Like, Ajahn, you kept talking about community, right? And that seems to differentiate JPAC. We've talked about how do you tell your story. And you guys saw some of the pictures when I tried to tell my story about how, I started with this dream as a little girl to sing, and then that dream came true. But really, what I found is connecting with people is very important to me. And now I really want to use music for social change. Very, very briefly there, right? And so knowing your story, I can't stress this enough. Everybody, that is, if you take one thing away from entrepreneurship, it's being able to tell your story. But the next step here is identifying your competition. And I've put this slide here. This next song is also called "Ow," right, from the Wolves, which I think is so funny, or the Dogs. So I'm going to sort of stop there for a moment here. And Samuel, let's turn back to you. Do you know who your competition is?
Well, locally or in globally?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Both. What do you think about your local competition? Do you know who they are? Have you identified them?
Okay, so there are big publishers called Gramedia Books, and they have all sort of books, and we cannot by any means compete with them head to head on. So and there are others like Mizan Books, and there are few a big name on children book here, but the indie publishers are so rare. So we locally we actually collaborate with a writing school called IWEC. So they mm, they have they have books from their students, and then we illustrate the cover of their novel, middle grade books, etc.,
Got
etc.
it. Got it. Got it. So, guys, already do you see how Samuel has a very good awareness of who is his competition? That's fantastic. And being able to identify your competition is the first step in being able to think about how do you make yourself different from your competition, right? That UVP. So I'm going to turn here to the group, the full group. Who in the group is a singer? Who do I have that's a singer in the group? Raise your hand if singing is your thing.
Let's see.
Okay, Ajahn, trick
Hold on,
question.
we do have someone raising their hands. Who raised their hands? Jane Elena
Okay, Jane Elena, it's okay if it's not professionally. Or Diki.
or Diki.
Where are you guys? Diki, hey, Jane Elena, come on down.
Oh,
I want to hear from both of you. Who is your competition? Now, this is a trick question. Just bear in mind, I'm gonna sort of give you a hint. As entertainers, if you think of yourselves as singers, as entertainers, can you just tell me what comes to mind? Who is your competition? You can unmute yourselves so that we can hear you, please.
Okay.
I would say
Please, Jane, go ahead.
I would say it's people who have a plus point other than just the singing, like someone who has the resources to like create music videos or market themselves. 'Cause,
Okay.
like
Okay,
talent
music
itself, I don't think
videos.
it's the yeah. I don't talent itself. I don't think it's the measure of like how successful you can go. So that's what
That
comes to my
seems
mind.
that makes sense to me. What do you think, Diki?
For me, it's people who have more credibility than me, which is
What do you
meaning
mean by
that
that?
yeah, they can just go creating something and have already big popularity. So whatever they throw, they will at least gain something from that. And for me, I mean, like I just getting started, so I don't have any credibility just yet. So I need to learn more how to gain my credibility first, so I can build my own brand.
Okay, Diki, I appreciate that answer too. So we've heard about resources from Jane Elena, credibility from Diki. This is a big question, and I think that my answer is going to really surprise you guys. Anyone else who's in entertainment, dancing, acting, Ajeng, I'm going to turn to you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Competition. It's really interesting, especially in acting, because it's a small community and we know everyone. But I think like competition wise, I would say people with bigger follower accounts.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Bigger follow. Okay. I'm taking all this in. So what I'm going to suggest, Ajeng, is that we take a break now because I'm going to come back with something I think that's going to shock you guys. But really keep thinking about this question. Who is your competition? Let's take our 10-minute break. We will come back at 8:06. Before we go, make sure to sign the attendance. A big shout out to Samuel. Samuel, really well done. Well done, my friend. It's
Samuel.
super impressive to me how far along on your journey you are. I didn't ask you how old you are, but I
you.
imagine you're young enough where you're hitting things that, many 30, 40-year-olds
I'm
struggle.
27.
It's super impressive and really a role model, I think, for all of us here.
I
Thank you
mean,
for
I think you're too kind.
No. I'm quite impressed. So, Kyoto, I'm seeing this here too. Feel free to put your notes in the chat. Let's take our 10
Um,
minutes and
sorry.
yes, Samuel, go ahead.
There's a question that I haven't answered. Can I answer like from Nev?
Oh yeah.
The question from Nev.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Question from Nev.
Okay, it's a short answer. So, do I regret not being in comics? Mm,
Oh, this was Nev's question, I think.
yeah. So yeah, I got disappointed, but maybe I can poke Marvel or DC comics at children books. I think that's the answer. I think I just stick with my current thing.
I'm so impressed. And I have no doubt, like if I were an investor, I would invest in you because you've shown resilience. You didn't get what you wanted. You kept going. You've kept going. You've had a lot of setbacks, but resilience is the number one thing to look for in an entrepreneur. Guys, you will no doubtedly fail. You will no doubtedly have disappointments, but it's the capacity to step back from them and keep going. As a singer, I know there were many times on stage live where like I would make a small mistake in my singing. And they say, like, with the psychology of it, once you make a small, maybe you forget a word or like you forget some small thing with the music. that you're 90% more likely to make a second mistake when you make the first mistake. Why? Because our mind is so much thinking about that first mistake, like, oh gosh, I messed up, I messed up, I messed up, that you stop putting yourself in the moment and stop thinking about the next things that are coming. And therefore, you make another mistake, and the cycle just keeps going. And then before you know it, you've had a bad performance because you've made so many mistakes. The trick is to say, I forgive myself. Okay, yeah, there was a little thing. Acknowledge it, forgive yourself, and be in the moment and keep going forward. Every great teacher, singing teacher, or otherwise, every single great person I've worked with, and I've had the unusual privilege of working with some really big legends, they all said the same thing to me. Keep going. No matter what you do, keep going. You will have setbacks. You will have moments. You will have bad performances. You will have bad reviews. But you just, take the time you need, sleep, whatever, and you keep going. It's when you stop that you fall behind. And I can say now at my age, how many of my colleagues that I thought were much more talented than me, that I thought were my competition, they sort of like were not able to keep going as much. And if you're looking at the long game of this, of doing it in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, that is the secret. You keep going no matter what. I can't stress that enough. So, okay, let's take our break now. 10 minutes, back at 8:10 your time. Who is your competition? Think about that.
All right. Thank you so
Please
much,
stand up.
Carla. Don't forget to fill in the attendance, and we'll see you at 8:10 p.m. Thank you so much. Hi, Carla.
Hey, Ajeng. So tell me, do you have any other thoughts about competition?
Um, yeah, yes. I feel like one of my biggest competition is also myself and my own motivation sometimes. So that's also a more internal answer to that, for me at least.
And that's a great answer. I think like being able to view yourself as your competition or going inward is always the best way rather than comparing yourself to anyone. But for purposes of this crazy exercise, I'm going to introduce you guys to an unlikely competitor. How many of you guys know who this is? Motimaru. Does anyone know Motimaru? Just need you to understand.
Yeah.
Motimaru Motimaru is officially the most watched cat on YouTube. Okay? This is his Guinness Book of World Records. So, the thing that we don't often think about is when we are, was not expecting a cat. Like here's the deal, guys. I went to school. I, learned all these languages, singing technique, all this stuff. Um, but the reality is, when you enter this business, and please make no mistake, we're a business. When you're an artist, you're running a business. Um, you have to know your competition in order to assess the options that any consumer or audience has. And when I think about this, what options does everybody have for entertainment? If we really think outside of the box, maybe outside of the litter box, if you will, cats may be your biggest competition. You guys are up against more than a decade of internet cats. The lady yelling at cat, the keyboard cat, thriller cat, grumpy cat, God rest his soul. All of these cats, like Diki was talking about credibility. The cats have no credibility. They have no diplomas. There's all kinds of stuff about the cats. And here's where it gets interesting. What are we really using YouTube for? Facebook's social networking site, but YouTube is actually often looked at as a source of entertainment, and now TikTok, right? Of the people who've posted video content onto YouTube, about 50%, maybe more now, are uploading videos of their animals. And so, pets might be the new source of entertainers. There's a big audience for dogs and cat videos. But we can definitely say that like this whole area of like how to make your cat an internet celebrity is like becoming a thing. Now, when you consider the statistics for my field, the most popular YouTube videos of opera singers, Pavarotti is by far the biggest. You guys probably heard of him. Pavarotti had a video of 38 million views. Of like contemporary, Renee Fleming is a very famous opera singer. She's gotten 2.5 million views. But Surprise Kitty got 80 million views, right? So like this is like a whole different thing. You take a look at this. This is probably another video you guys might know. Let me see if I can play this.
Could you do me a favor? Tell him healthy.
Is he for real?
Oh, hey, Michael. Thanks for helping me out today. Means a lot. Thanks, buddy. I owe you.
All right, I just had to show you guys that. Sorry. So this is what I'm talking about. Creative thinking. Sorry. You guys have got to think totally out of the box creatively about who your competition is, about how to get your product out there, about how to be different, how to be unusual, and ultimately about how to connect. How can you really reach the hearts and souls? Now, that was a souped up cat video, obviously, but we all know the cat and the cucumber and like the basic cat videos that like really don't take a lot of training and they're like blowing up the internet. So I just kind of wanted to make that point to get you guys thinking creatively. Let's go back to our PowerPoint here. And then I am going to take some more examples. Forgive me here one moment. That wasn't what you were expecting, huh, Ajung?
No, not at all. Never here says something really funny. I think this is all a scheme Carla did to show cat videos to the team.
Well, there's that too. I actually did a deep dive on this of why cat videos are more popular than dog videos, which is like a whole thing, but I'll save that for next time. But know your competition, right? This is where we are. So social media. Let's talk a little bit about social media. There's, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, all of these things. I think the first thing here is finding the right platform for you and understanding that, someone who does visual art probably will gravitate toward Instagram, whereas maybe someone who writes, funny lines might like Twitter because it's more about, text. So there is not one right answer, but there are some rules to follow here. Be consistent. So no matter what, and I've read numerous articles on this, the number one rule that's said, and I'm sure you guys know this better than me, is to be consistent in your communications. If you're going to post on Instagram, post regularly, like once a day, or, make sure that when you're growing the audience knows what to expect. If you're like posting once a day for 3 weeks and then you don't post for 1 week, that can be very like inconsistent and people will tend to drop that follow. So being consistent is really good. And I'm sure there are ways in which you can actually like program your post to come out at a certain time so that you don't have to like manually do it at that time. It's super important. Being authentic. I think we've talked about this a lot here, but you want to show content that really it speaks to your truth. One of the people I mentioned last week was Lizzo, the artist, and that like she's very much her authentic self. It's not all about like always having makeup on and looking perfect, but rather like sharing the journey with her authentic self. Being engaging too is like another really high mark premium principle, in that if people are writing in the comments, engage with those people. If people send you a note on a DM and it looks legitimate, engage with them. Like make sure to use it not just as a one-way street of putting out content, but as a way to create dialogues and foster those dialogues. And lastly, be positive. Someone who's consistently complaining or like putting down other people is probably not going to get as many followers as someone who is really looking on the bright side. We want to look for content that's lifting us up. So these are four, I think, really standard rules to social media posting. While I'm doing this, feel free, because I'm on full screen, I can't see you guys, feel free to put notes in the chat if you have any questions. So here are some key questions, and I want you guys to think about this. Feel free to screenshot this, or I can also send you the PowerPoint. I want to invite you guys to think about the following questions I'm going to ask you. Number one, what are some things you feel you do well? So think about talents you already have. Ask your friends and family what they think you're good at, and you might be surprised by what they say. Like for instance, okay, I'm a singer. I know about that, but like there are other things that I really like to do. Like I like to do jigsaw puzzles, right? And maybe you guys didn't know that about me. And if I asked my husband, what am I good at? I think I'm a pretty terrible cook, but maybe he would think I was like, okay. So think about the things that you do well in terms of what you might want to share with your branding on social media. What challenges you? These are, challenges might be opportunities to improve and move toward your goal. And it might suggest also an area of work. This is very much along the lines of the SWOT, which I keep coming back to in all the classes. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Yeah? Any questions as I move forward?
Let's
Okay.
see if we have. I think we're clear so far.
Cool. And guys, I'm going to turn to you and ask you about these things in a moment. So really take note here. Okay. What do you like to do for fun? Like, you know, for me, I think you guys all know, like, we've just met Samuel or me or Ajeng. Like, you want to get to know the person, not just, oh, I'm a singer and I do this and this, but like, what else do you like to do? What's your favorite cereal in the morning? Or what's your favorite flavor pizza? I don't know. Just like really think about like the kind of stuff that you would share with a friend is things that you might want to share on social media. Now, the next two I think are really interesting. Who do you look up to? People you admire, whether they're celebrities, historic figures, or people you know personally, can tell you something about who you are and what you value. They can also tell your audience something about that. Consider what it is about them that you like and whether those qualities are worth reaching for. For instance, my big role model is, oh my gosh, why am I like forgetting her name? Um, Terrible. I've not had enough coffee this morning. But it'll come to me in just a moment. I'm really really sorry. I know her first name is Jane and she works with animals in Africa. Can anybody help me here?
No?
Jane Goodall, thank you. Jane Goodall, I have a photo of her that I put in that PowerPoint. I just really admire her as a woman who like went in, pursued this dream and like communicated with different species, and she's really incredible. So really think about like who do you look up to? Would that be something you'd like to share on social media? And finally, what's something you've always wanted to try? And why haven't you done that thing yet? What is it like? Maybe you want to skydive, maybe you want that experience, or maybe traveling somewhere. What do you hope to get out of it? So, these are 7 questions that I want us to think about for just a moment here. So I'm going to call on people, people maybe that we have not heard from. Does anybody want to share who's someone that they look up to?
Feel free to raise your hands or unmute.
Otherwise, I'm going to call on people.
Any volunteer? Let's see.
Okay, well, I'm curious.
Oh, we have Diana. We have Diana raising her hand.
Oh wait, this is yeah, is it Nev or Deanna? Deanna, I'm sorry. Maybe just make sure that you guys.
Oh,
Oh, hi, Deanna. Yeah,
Yeah,
tell us a
hello.
little
I
bit about
want
who you look up to.
to share some people. There are Tyler Joseph from 21 Pilots. He makes music about uh, mental health. Well, not really explicitly mention mental health, but his music contain it, and not just the mental issue, but also how we come up to deal with it. And there also recently I watched some interview about Cardi B, and it's amazing to acknowledge that she was working in the in the sexual activity area, but now she is a healthy living person, and she advocates a strong woman. That's
Absolutely.
what I want to be. She's amazing.
She is amazing.
And on Twitter, I follow some women that chase what do you call it, hurricane. They're hurricane photographer. They photograph
Oh,
a
wow.
disaster.
oh,
Yeah, and their photo is amazing, and sometimes it's endanger their life, but they still achieve to be a professional photographer. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. That and dangerous, I'm sure. So like if you're following someone like that, Deanna, wouldn't you be curious like what makes her do that? Why did she start to follow hurricanes or like who are her role models and what is something that she would like to try that she's never done? Do these questions seem like questions you would want answered?
Yeah. So apparently, if I draw a line that resemble their similarity, is that they monetize their trauma.
They monetize their trauma. It's
Yeah,
interesting that you put it that way. Do you feel like they're
because
monetizing their
they
trauma?
because they now they deal with it. They can face it. Like for example, Tyler was dealing with some bully, and Cardi was a degraded woman in the society, and the photographer, the hurricane photographer, she was scared as hell when she was a child, but
That's
now
really
they can overcome it. They can live with it. They don't feel like those are a problem. They accept it, and now they advocating in that topic.
and
They make sure that
Diana,
people not be ashamed of it.
I'm curious, what is your area of interest as an entrepreneur?
Um, it's in education area, but more like a community or an organization. But I still don't know how to be an entrepreneur in that area. But my uncle and my aunt they have school. Like my uncle have a PK, preschool, and my aunt have a special need pre-formal education.
That's very cool. And if I'm not mistaken, earlier in the chat, you mentioned about interest also in visual arts and mental health, right?
Yeah.
That's really, really fantastic. And I feel like one of the questions to explore, and I'm not going to put you on the spot here, would be you seem drawn to stories of overcoming challenges. Are there any personal challenges of yours that you could share eventually? You don't have to right now, but that, sort of speak to that. Because I think the more that you are open and sharing, the more people are going to want to share with you.
It's not that a big thing. Maybe for other people it's not a big thing, but I took 6-year gap from high school to higher education, from high school to university, because I have to work in a bakery for legit 5 years before I can pursue my higher education. But now that I can go to university, I'm succeed to catch up with other kids. I guess that's it.
And well, also like think about the experience that you gained during those 5 years. What I mean, to work in a bakery, that's a full-time job. Like, how did you feel about those years when you were working? Were you just thinking about going to higher education?
Yeah, so I'm not really good with my motoric, like it's hard to think. I also a communication disorder, but going to a bakery makes me, because I'm in the production area, so I can use my hands really well, and now I'm proud to myself that yeah, I can do scissors nicely, like I can write, or even that I took a gap year. I'm not uh still be able to write, and because in a bakery is kitchen is a hard environment, like people talk harshly, so yeah, I can communicate better.
I think
Like
it's really amazing. Like your
I can
story,
understand how to talk with different people.
it's fantastic. I hope that you'll read some of the chats here because I think you've really impressed your colleagues so much. When you finish higher education, what would you would like to work in the education space?
um, well, absolutely, I want to be a teacher, but I also want to build an organization. Like I'm in the middle, working it with my friend to build a focus group discussion on folklore as psychosocial studies. like what the biopolitic behind it. And I'm also in a community. I help my friend in coloring community for non-professional to express themselves and to reduce their mental health issues. We talk about it, and I also write some acoustic poem that sometimes I make it into short song for my friends and for my members in the community area, so they still have this bonding.
Deanna, where do you live? Where is your community?
Well, the community is in online, full online. It's on Twitter, but it's cyber area, so I can't really tell the name of it because it's not mine.
Right, right.
I'm not the founder. Yeah. But
One of the things that comes to my mind hearing your story and hearing Samuel's story, and forgive me, I'm just going to put this out there, but is the power of collaboration. So, Samuel, I didn't ask you if you write lyrics or if you write the words in the books. I know you illustrate. And Deanna is telling us she writes poetry. And I know we also have like Mario, I saw was here earlier. And so, one of the things that's really special, potentially, and Deanna, you're talking about this with your group as well, is the power of collaboration. If you can find the right collaborators, and sometimes this takes a while to work out, but you can really make something very special together. And throughout time, we've seen collaborations like the Beatles, the band, or U2, or so many actors and directors, or all kinds of collaborations. And that can also be a really, really good way to combine your interests, combine your followings, combine your support sources, and make something new. Have you ever thought about a collaboration, Diana?
yes, after I'm ready with the catalog and what's the background, because it's a joint partnership, so I have to prepare the previous organization, the previous community.
I'm so glad that you're with us. I think you're teaching us a lot also about what it's like to go through the struggles of life with courage. And you seem to have so much courage. To me, that I'm so drawn to your story, your personal story. Diana, do you have any social media where we can follow you?
On my Instagram, it's izati.bustro.
Can you put it in the chat so everybody can follow you? I will follow you for sure. Ajeng, I also noticed that we had another question in the chat too, just going back there.
Roll back a little bit from Kyoto, right? We have a question from Kyoto here. I often write short stories on Facebook, but sometimes I make short comics from them. That's really cool. The question is, can we focus on one of the social media platforms like Facebook? I think Kyoto here raised a very good question, because with all of the options out there, like it's easy for us to go like, okay, I want to tackle Instagram, but also TikTok, but also Facebook, but also Twitter. Is it okay to focus on one, like Facebook here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you don't have to have all of the social media. Now, you guys, I'm sure know this, but there is a way to link your Instagram and Facebook posts.
Yeah.
Ajeng, you're familiar with this, right? So that if you posted something on Instagram, it can automatically post on Facebook, and I think vice versa. So in that way, you might want to you can kind of get two for one. But the real thing is, which one are you going to follow and which one are you going to keep up and like interact with people? And the interaction element is super important. So I think you guys understand these platforms again better than I do. Facebook, it's unlimited. You can write as many characters, you can post pictures, you can post videos. Instagram, it's more the photo plus the caption, right? And then on Twitter, it's 160 characters just writing. generally speaking, at least in the US and from what I understand in Europe, Twitter tends to be a little bit more political, a little bit more academic, political, whereas Instagram is very much for artists, and I think Facebook tends to be personal and for artists. Um, TikTok is quickly growing. Many of you probably saw that Beyonce, the singer, just launched her TikTok this week. And so that is becoming like a very, very fast moving platform. But to go to this point about Facebook, I'm sorry, it was Kyoto, right? Kyoto, can you come on down? Talk to us a little bit about your Facebook experiences.
Yes.
Hi,
Hi.
Kyoto.
So tell us, what would you like to improve on your
Hello,
Facebook?
everyone. Uh, my name Yota from. I'm a short writer. I and usually draw draw comic to completely my story.
Yep.
And I usually to write in Facebook because in Facebook I can write long
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. So,
But if I yes,
no, please go ahead.
jadi bisa pakai ini bahasa Indonesia.
So sorry. Sebentar, Kyoto. I think Kyoto would like to speak in Indonesian. So if you like to turn on your interpreting feature, boleh, silakan. Silakan,
Yeah.
Kyoto. I think Kyoto is freezing here on my end.
Yeah, I can't hear, but I do have the interpreter on.
Yes. Let's see. Kyoto,
Okay.
are you here?
Working on it. Well, oh, here he comes. Hi, Kyoto.
Hai Kyoto, silakan.
Jadi begini, saya sering menulis untuk platform dan juga untuk surat kabar maupun di portal media. Terkadang untuk menambah ilustrasi, saya membuat gambar sendiri di cerita saya. Jadi saya sering menulis di koran maupun menulis di platform digital seperti Wattpad maupun Storyal. Hanya saja terkadang saya sibuk dengan aktivitas di dunia nyata karena kadang saya bekerja sebagai tukang pijat. Kadang juga saya membantu kakak saya berjualan stik keju. Jadi saya sering di siang hari bantu saudari saya, sedangkan di malam hari saya sering menulis. Mungkin itu aktivitas sehari-hari. Dan kadang cerita saya ini, pengalaman pribadi saya tuangkan ke dalam cerita ringan di platform Karya Karsa. Itu semacam kayak website itu. Jadi itu yang saya ini. Jadi kadang di siang hari saya kerja serabutan, di malam hari kadang beraktivitas di komunitas saya, baik di teman-teman sesama seniman di Sidoarjo maupun di dunia digital seperti Facebook atau di WhatsApp. Mungkin itu saja yang bisa saya sampaikan. Terima kasih.
Oh, thank you so much, Kyoto. I have to ask, can we see your Facebook? Can we follow you on Facebook?
Yes. Because in Facebook I have many friends.
Kita boleh minta Facebook kamu, boleh share Facebook kamu nggak?
Oke, namanya sama seperti saya, Kiyota Hamzah, yang
Oke.
ada gambar bebek. Because
Oh, gambar bebek. Oke.
yes,
Oke, aku masukin. Let me put that in the chat so that we can all follow you and add you as a friend.
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kyoto. And I have a couple of recommendations. One would be Kyoto, when you're doing the stories, is there a way that you can have a small group of 3 or 4 or 5 friends with whom you share the stories with regularly, who can like maybe help you in helping you share those stories or giving you feedback or something like that? They're kind of like your sounding board.
Okay.
I think that could
Oh,
be. I'm also curious, does anybody know about Substack? This came to mind also with Samuel. Samuel, do you know about Substack?
subtract. Okay.
Could be something interesting for you to look into.
But I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're familiar. I mean, at least I'm not. What is Substack?
So Substack, I'm not super familiar with it myself, but from what I understand, it is a platform where you can share your content, but also monetize your content.
Right.
So, you have to sign up. Let me go to it. And it's really about like when you get followers, then, like someone might pay 10 cents or $10 to see your new story, right? And so, whereas in Facebook, all the content is free, in Substack, they're paying to see the content.
I see.
So it's a kind of a new platform, but I think it's one where if you're trying to grow out your content and if you have interesting content that's innovative, it could be a lot of people find it very lucrative to go that route.
Okay.
Okay. All right. That's a
Yeah.
good. Thank you for the suggestion, Carla. This is new to me too.
Well, I'm looking forward to following Kyoto. I'm just putting your name down right now, Kyoto, so I can follow you later. And I just kind of want to go back to these questions that I was offering for the full group here. Um, what are your interests? Who do you look up to? And there's one more that I want to share with you. Um, this is a really big one. What has made you the most proud? So let me. Your answer might not have anything to do with a hard one or trophy. Like it might be something about helping someone, right? What are you most proud of? So, guys, I want you to screen shoot this question right here. Please, does everyone know how to take a screenshot? Shift Command 3. And your assignment for next week is going to be to plan some content. So, your assignment for next week is going to be to answer at least 2 of those questions I asked, plus this one. Or rather, I should say one of the other questions plus this one. So 2 posts. And what I want you to do to turn in the homework assignment is to share your social media with us so that we can all also start to follow you and show that
Okay.
post. You can say something like, this is a post for the JPAC entrepreneurship, like hashtag. I think we do the maybe Ajing, you can help me put in the chat what the JPAC social media is and my own social media. So I should be receiving your homework via social media. Does that make sense?
Okay. And
So like,
let me just confirm your social media is Carla Canales Music, right?
I just put it in there. Yep. And on Facebook, I am Carla Canales. So your homework is, at the very minimum, answer that question which I just had up, which I've put the screenshot into the chat. Tell us what accomplishment has made you most proud. So it could be something like, I'm really proud that I made my debut at Jpac, or I'm really proud that I got something published, or I'm really proud that I got to sing this duet, whatever it is. Or it can also be something like, I'm really proud I helped my little brother learn to read. I'm really proud that I got myself out of a bad relationship. I'm really proud that I helped my grandmother with the groceries. Whatever it is, try to make that there, and then put, this is the homework for, or just tag Jpac and myself. And obviously, it's really nice if you can include a photo. But I want you guys to all do at least one social media post for next Friday that is along these lines. Now, the other questions, shall I put in the screenshots of the other questions? Is that helpful for you? Or did you write them down?
Yes, please. Maybe let's put them in there just to be safe. Yeah.
I'm actually going to give you this document. Here we go. Sorry, I'm trying to put them in the chat. Okay. So you can find the other questions there. And if you look at that document, which I just pulled up, again, I'll share my screen so you can see it. Sorry, my desktop is getting quite messy. What are some things you feel you do well? What challenges you? What do you like to do for fun? Who do you look up to? What's something you always wanted to try? What accomplishment makes you most proud? You can also pull from these. What's your favorite class? What do you read about in your free time? If you could do any job for a day, as a kid, what did you want to be? So pick any of those that you would like. And this is part of starting to share your authentic self. Yes, Maria, I love your question here.
This is a really good question. Yeah. Shall I read it?
Yes, please.
All right. So Maria said, it was previously mentioned that we need to be authentic. Is it possible to sell our brand if we use other names or aliases, like a pseudonym, to post our various creations on various platforms? And how do we draw the line between the persona and our personal life? For example, I use an alias on the social media platforms where I post my covers and sometimes my writings because I prefer to separate it from my personal life. That's a very good question.
That's a great question, and we hadn't really talked about that. So what I would say is, as your persona, like as your brand, what is an accomplishment that you're very proud of? And I think that that's important. You can say, hey guys, thanks for following me. I wanted to share with you, like, this particular cover means a lot to me because the song was a challenging song, or this is a song I really loved, or whatever the reason that means a lot, and therefore this is an accomplishment that I'm very proud of. Like, it can definitely be in the voice of that persona. I hope I'm answering that question well. In other words, I think being authentic is about sharing, right? And if you're just putting up content like, here's a song, here's a song, here's a song, here's a song, that's cool. But I think at a certain moment on social media, your followers are going to want to know, like, why did she pick that song? Or like, tell us a little bit about yourself. And that's what I'm getting at. Or even like, what does that persona stand for? So these are a little bit more personal questions, but I do think that they can be answered in the voice of the persona. Maria, let me know if that answers your question well enough. Anybody else have a question? That was a great question. Any other questions? Ajeng, do you think that this is pretty clear?
Yes, it is pretty clear. And it's, I think for me personally, it's something that I feel I don't think about enough. And like, these are some overlooked questions, but really, important and reflective ones. And so I'm kind of excited to do to look back and answer these questions?
Well, I think a lot of these questions are helpful no matter where we are on our journey. I'm putting my PowerPoint for today also in the chat, and I'm going to share one more document here. And these are just resources like I've collected over the years, guys. So let me share my screen again. So this is called 10 Secrets of Success. And I think again this applies no matter what you do. How you think is everything. Always be positive. Think of success, not failure, right? Think of your failures as helping you get to the successes. Number 2, decide upon your true dreams and goals. That's very much what we were talking about with the mission and the vision. Number 3, take it into action, right? So start getting it done. Number 4, never stop learning. Read books, get training. I mean, you're all in this course to learn, which I think is really great. Number 5, be persistent and work hard. It's a marathon, not a sprint. What did I say before the break? Never give up. So important. Number 6, learn to analyze the details. Learn from your mistakes. Get the facts. Get all of the input. Learn to be analytical. We're going to talk more about that next week as well. 7, we're definitely going to talk about that next week. Focus your time and money. It's important that you look at your resources, which at this point are probably time, money, your friends, your sort of social capital, and really focus on how you can best utilize that. Number 8, don't be afraid to be innovative, be different. That's the cats, guys, right? That's the cats. Number 9, deal and communicate with people efficiently. And I would say friendly too. I mean, always be kind. Being kind is so underestimated. It's one of those concepts that, as Ajeng said, it's often like not talked about. We sort of forget about it, but it's so important. If we're here to make the world a better place, there's no easier way to do that than to just be thoughtful and kind in our interactions. Number 10, be honest, dependable, take responsibility. Otherwise, 1 through 9 don't matter. So this is a really great list. Whenever I find things like this, I collect them because I like to share them with others. And this is one I've come back to so often because I think it summarizes everything that we've talked about so well. Now we have some other, yes,
from
please.
Jan Benny. What will you do if your circle or environment that you work in is quite toxic? Avoid it or face it?
Wow,
So-
that's a good question. So sometimes we can't avoid it, right? Like there's 2 options there. One, get a different job. I've heard this said before, like if you're really, your work is bringing you down, it's bringing your energy down, if it's toxic, look for a different job. And sometimes that will happen quickly that you find another job, and sometimes it may take a long time. So the second option is maybe you can't find another job. Maybe you have to be in that environment. So I think when that's the case, you have to find ways to create boundaries so that the toxicity doesn't enter your space. Maybe it's about saying, hey, can you please send me communications via email so that you're not interacting with the person for their toxic energy. Maybe it's about also setting some rules to the emails, like I will answer my emails during the business hours. But I think it's about really thinking about how can you set boundaries for yourself, and they might offend some other people. Other people might say, oh, well, I want to vent or I want to like gossip or whatever. It always will have a period of adjustment. But for the long term, you do have to learn to protect your resources. And part of your resources is your mental health, right? Your well-being. Karina's asking a question about the personal inventory. I definitely want the screenshot. That is your minimum homework assignment, minimum. But what I'd like you to do is to think about one additional question so that you're starting to put these questions into your social media. My goal for you guys, as I said at the very beginning, is to leave you with tools. At this point into the 3rd session, we only have 2 more after this. You should have your story. Like Samuel had that beautiful story. Like Nicholas in the first week had his beautiful story. Many of you did that assignment beautifully. You should have your story. You should have your mission and vision, or some sense of what are your dreams and how do you convert those into goals, right? If you can add to that the SWOT analysis and some of those things. Now we're talking about branding. So we're talking about putting your story into action on your social media. We're talking about answering some of these questions and putting them through. Maybe some of you don't have social media. That's okay too. If someone does not have any social media, let me know. Send me an email. I'm totally fine with that. I think you guys all have my email address, right? But the goal here is to start to find the tools to put this outside. And so social media is a very easy way to do that. A website is another way to do that. So does this all make sense, sort of how we're going in sequence here?
Mhm.
Next week, we're going to talk about finance, about using those resources and making a financial plan. That is probably the hardest thing to do. And I really can't wait because I have some really interesting activities. Don't be afraid of finances, guys. You could have $0 and you can still do amazing things. So we're wrapping up here. If there's no further questions, I really want to thank our guests today. I really want to thank Samuel for sharing his story, everyone, Kyoto who shared, Diana who shared. I really think that so much of this is about sharing, and also hopefully by the end of the program, you guys will have, formed some groups and some colleagues and some new friends. Ajeng, do you have anything that you want to add here?
I think that's all for me too. Thank you so much for yet another amazing session. It's very, very insightful as always, and I'm discovering a lot of new things about myself, a lot of new things about my new friends here, and about you as well, which is always a pleasure. So thank you so much. And I think we if we are done, I believe we can hand it over to the JPAC team for a picture.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you so much, Carla, for another insightful session. And thank you so much for all the participants tonight. Before we end, I think it's better to have a picture together for our memory. So yeah, if you can just turn on your camera for a while before we leave. Okay, great. All right, I'm gonna start counting in 3, 2, and smile. All right. Okay, one more time in 3, 2, and smile. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Deta, or is it Nabila?
It's me, it's Deta. Yeah, I guess we'll see you back next week.
We'll
So
see you
have a great
Friday.
night.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Guys. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Thank you, everybody.